All right, on today's podcast, we talk about Dan Martell's 1-3-1 rule and how to utilize it to get the results you're looking for, be able to effectively lead your team, empower them to do their job, learn, and get you better ideas than you could have come up with on your own, and also how to apply it to yourself. And if you have kids, it works for them too. So I promise you this one's worth it. It's short, it's like 13, 14 minutes. It's straight to the point, and it is a very, very powerful framework. So without further ado, let's get into the episode. Welcome back. You know what we're going to do today? We're going to give Dan Martell full credit because he is a G of an entrepreneur and a man who I've followed for years and we've talked online. And we're going to talk about his 1-3-1 rule. And this rule is incredible. And he talks about this rule in a reel, and it's applicable to a team. And I also think it's massively applicable for ourselves if we don't have a team, as an easy frame to use to get to clarity, use divergent thinking, or help us creatively solve challenges or problems that pull out different results out of ourselves. And I'm also going to talk about a podcast I did with a friend of mine, Brandon Allen, and he did a show with us, and it's already up by now, by the time you're listening to this. And it was a masterclass in leadership, building a team, having a deep culture. And I just have to reference you to go listen to it because it really, really is like the keys to the kingdom. And he's been in this for over 2 decades, and the results he's created is massive. But, one of the mistakes that happens, myself included, is that we get stuck in business because we hire team members, but then we tell them what to do. We remove their agency and we don't allow them to be in their power. And Dan Martell was getting interviewed and he was talking about this. And he was talking about how he communicates with his team when they come to him with questions or challenges. And it's called his 1-3-1 rule. And so what he says is that when someone comes to him with a challenge, instead of giving them an answer to the solution, giving them an answer or the solution, he stops and asks them what the problem is they're trying to solve. So that's the one part, right? So the one is, what is the problem or situation you are trying to solve? And before he moves on, he helps them get clear on what that challenge is. I don't know how to sell this thing. This thing isn't converting. This call didn't go the way that it was supposed to go. And he helps them get clarity on that one thing. Once they are clear on it, he then asks them, what are the 3 options to solve that problem? And that's the 3. So what are 3 ideas or 3 ideas you have or 3 options that you think might solve that problem? And then he waits until they share. And then the final one is, okay, amazing. What is your one recommendation or action to take? And the most important part is that he doesn't say anything until they offer up that solution. Because if he does, then he just told them how to do their job and is taking away their opportunity from learning. And this is a concept that might even feel edgy a little bit for some people. And it's a concept that in consulting and coaching, I have seen hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands of times. And I've experienced personally way too many times than I can count. And between me and Ashley, right, because we run the company and she's the CEO, there have been probably 100 instances minimum where she's come to me and asked me something. And I'm like, what would you do? And 10 out of 10 times, her ideas are 100 times better than anything that I could ever come up with. Because I also realize that I'm the bottleneck in most of this, because I get really bullish on what things look like, or I'm so certain because I've done this for so long that I even prevent my own growth or our growth when I try to rigidly say it's this way, this way, this way. When in actuality, there are millions of ways to accomplish the same task, and there is never one right way. It's the way that we choose to take action on and learn. And so the reason I'm sharing this today is because, number one, if you have a team, when you hire a team, you hire a teammate, a team member to replace you, to be able to do the job that you don't want to do anymore, not to be told what to do and then basically just have us giving orders. But that's something that's conditioned and trained over time to create learning on both sides. Learning for me in this lens about learning how to be a better leader, learning how to look at things differently, learning how to communicate differently, and holding that possibility and having the patience and the humility to recognize that I'm wrong most of the time, but then also holding a space in a container to allow these incredible people that we hire or that work on our team to be able to stand in their power, build confidence, and utilize their specific view of the world or the challenge to create clarity and action items that help us collectively solve the outcome or the challenge or the problem that we're going after, right? So the 1-3-1 rule is this. The first one is, what's the problem or situation you are trying to solve, and get clear on it. 3, what are 3 options to solve that problem? And then 1, what is your 1 recommendation? And the reason I said that this is not only applicable to a team, but it's also applicable to ourselves, is after hearing this years ago and then realizing through a lot of trial and error and then collecting a whole lot of evidence that Ashley's basically right, or her ideas are better to execute towards in the first place, I've realized that I can use this on myself a lot, because when challenges arise, sometimes I doomsday that challenge. I make a mountain out of a molehill and I ruminate on it, and I don't ever get to the texture or clarity of what is the one actual problem or challenge or situation that I'm trying to solve. And then once I can narrow down what's that one thing, then I can use divergent thinking, right? And in our podcast on dreamstorming, I talk about this. If all I ask myself is what could I do, could limits me to things that I already know. Or what can I do? What can I do limits me to what I know. But if I ask myself, what are 3 things I could do that I haven't done before? And I really unpack that, it will get my brain working in divergent thinking to be able to look at solutions or outcomes or variables that I might not have thought of, to then narrow it down to, okay, well, what's the one thing I want to try differently or think about differently or act on differently, so that I can use this process on my own. And for my parents out there, I know this is silly and it might not be applicable to all of you, but this is something I use with Branson all the time because he's 7 and, he's learning about the world, how to navigate the world and how to do things. And he'll come up to me and be like, Daddy, this isn't working. And I'm like, what's not working, bud? And he's like, well, I can't figure this out, or this out. I'm like, oh, okay, what's the one thing? And he's like, oh, I just want to know how to do this. And I'm like, okay. And I'll never forget this. So we were building train tracks on the carpet, and this is applicable. And we have a soft carpet, and he was trying to get these little trees to stand up, but they just kept knocking over because the carpet is uneven. And I was like, what do you want to do? He's like, Dad, I just want these trees like this. I want them here. I want them. I'm like, amazing. He's like, I can't. I'm getting so frustrated. And he was getting so frustrated. And I was like, okay, well, what are a couple ideas that we could do? What can we try? And then he just sits there and he's like, well, we could do this, or we could do this, and we could do this. I'm like, which one do you want to try first? And he's like, this one. And his solution was to get a piece of cardboard paper and put it on the carpet and pretend it was grass. And then when we put the little trees on it, those trees stood up because it was flat. And then he got really excited, kept building the train tracks in this little world that we made, and it worked like a charm. And so this is a concept that allows us to utilize a framework, the 1-3-1, to get out of rumination or breakdown or overwhelm or challenges, use it with our team members to empower them to learn, to give their creative ideas, to find a perspective that we didn't have. It's a framework that allows us to use this on ourselves if maybe we're stuck in a pattern, we're ruminating, we can't figure out what to do, to get some inspiration to try something different. And it's also a tool that we can use to effectively communicate. If you have kids, if you have relationships, or whatever that case is, it's really a really simple, powerful framework that can get to clarity, get to some new ideas to try, and then get to implementation and action, so that we can see the results that are created in the world and then make adjustments from there. And I've recommended a book on this podcast quite a few times, and the ones that have read it thank me over and over. And I did not write the book. Linda Murphy wrote the book, and it's called The Declarative Language Handbook by Linda Murphy. And the ones that haven't read it, that I've told 100 times to read it and then finally got to read it, were like, thank you so much for forcing me to read that. It changed everything in my life and business. Because the book is really a communication manual on how to use declarative language, which is what a lot of this model and frame is doing. And so I wanted to share this rule from Dan today, because Dan's an absolute G. He's been building SaaS companies for years. His Instagram is absolutely incredible. I'm sure we'll link it in the show notes because the team will do that. And he's got every right to teach this because he is an absolute savage at everything that he does, and it works, and he's heart-centered, and he's faith-based, and he has all the results to back it up. But genuinely, these are the kinds of things that we need to keep in our tool chest or keep in our medicine cabinet to utilize, so that we can keep ourselves focused on accomplishing the outcomes we want to accomplish. And one of those is, if we have a team, the team doesn't win if I'm the bottleneck, right? The team doesn't win if they're constantly told what to do and they don't have the process to learn or to find different creative ideas. And we can use these same principles on ourselves or anywhere else, but the game is to use them and not allow all the noise to get in the way, but to allow things like this to exist in our ecosystem, to exist in our mind, to write down and put on a sticky note in front of us. So every time we have one of these challenges or this thing comes up, that we have a reminder to utilize this to create something different, to protect that outcome that we're going after. And this is one of the most simple, profound, and powerful concepts that actually works. And so my invitation for you is to try this on yourself first. Try it with your kids. If you want to use it in that bucket, try it with your team. And also allow your team to use it on you. Because the beautiful thing about our team, and the thing that I love so much about Ashley, is Ashley holds me accountable as well, because I feel like I'm the biggest hot mess Sunday that ever exists, especially when I get into like breakdown or rumination or spiraling territory. And she'll use these things on me as well to help find me get back to clarity and help my brain think differently to get to the same outcome. And so it's a tool that we have, and as long as we use it, it's effective. And so my invitation for you is to try this tool. It's called the 1-3-1 rule. 1-3-1. If you saw me doing that, I did 1-2-3. But 1-3-1, and it's full credit to Dan Martell. And so I wanted to share that with you today because I feel like it can only help, can only benefit, but give it a chance. Give it a try. Throw it in the oven, give it a test, and see what results you can use. And the reason I recommended the Brandon Allen podcast that we did is also because you've heard me say the scripture statement. Leadership is saying the same thing as many times as required till the last person gets it. Well, when we have a framework like this and we have a modality like this, number one, we have to be open to it being applied to us. But number two is we have to use it consistently and keep using it consistently until it works, not throwing it in the trash and say it doesn't work, because things get reconditioned not once, not twice, but over time. And it's our ability to be consistent and intentional with them that will start to bring the different results that we're looking for, as long as we use it and we give it a chance. And so I want to share that with you today. I want to say thanks. Thanks for listening. I just have so much gratitude for you. I love this show. I love doing this. I love connecting with you. I love reading all your DMs. I love seeing everyone that shares this and tags this. And I just thank you from the bottom of my heart for being amazing, for being in my world, for being in my ecosystem, for sending me all the questions that you send me, and just for being a part of my life. And so I'm just filled with immense amounts of gratitude today. And I'm excited that I get to share this. So I wish you the most beautiful day, whatever day of the week it is, the most beautiful moment, whatever moment you might be in. And no matter what the moment is, no matter what you think, no matter what you feel, know that you're special, know that you're amazing, and know that you're not alone in this game. Because at minimum, you have my slice of crazy in your corner. You have my team in your corner, and you have our whole community. And so I wish you the most beautiful of days. God bless you to absolute pieces. Remember that relationships will always beat algorithms, especially the one with yourself, because it starts there. And then take this principle, go apply it into your life, apply it into your business, give it a chance, and let me know how it goes. So I'll see you in the next episode, or you will hear me in your earballs. But either way, we're out.